It was supposed to be Stevie Wonder's night, a celebration, a tribute. And for most of the evening, that's exactly what it was, until Elton John sat down at the piano and silenced the entire room with something nobody expected. The applause that followed was overwhelming, but it was what happened immediately after that nobody in that venue would forget. Jamie Foxx stepped back to the mic, and within seconds, the most emotional moment of the night became something else entirely. The birth of Elton John. Before he became the global icon known as Elton John, he entered the world as Reginald Kenneth Dwight on March 25, 1947, in Pinner, Middlesex, England. His early years were far from glamorous. For the first 6 years of his life, his family lived in council housing before moving into a modest, semi-detached home. Money was often tight, but there was one thing that would quietly shape the course of his future: his grandmother's piano. Whenever he visited, young Reg would sit at the instrument for hours, drawn to the keys in a way that seemed almost instinctive. What started as childhood curiosity quickly revealed itself as something extraordinary. After only about a year of experimenting on the piano, his mother noticed something remarkable. Without any formal training, and without a single sheet of music in front of him, he had taught himself to play Waldteufel's The Skater's Waltz entirely by ear. It was an early glimpse of a talent that could not be ignored. Formal lessons soon followed, and by the age of 11, Reg had earned a scholarship to the prestigious Royal Academy of Music. It did not take long for him to stand out. During one lesson, his instructor played a complex 4-page composition by George Friedrich Handel. After hearing it only once, Reg sat down at the piano and performed the entire piece from memory, leaving his teacher stunned. Even at that young age, it was clear he possessed an exceptionally rare gift. By the time he turned 15, he was already performing professionally at a local pub. Known simply as Reggie, he entertained crowds with cover songs, while occasionally slipping in a few original compositions of his own. He was also beginning to think carefully about how he wanted to present himself. Although his eyesight was perfectly fine, he started wearing horn-rimmed glasses to imitate one of his musical heroes, Buddy Holly. It was one of the earliest signs of the distinctive image he would later become famous for. As he worked his way through the British music scene, Reg crossed paths with the Portsmouth band Simon Dupree and the Big Sound. Despite their name, there was no actual Simon Dupree. The group was fronted by brothers Derek, Ray, and Phil Shulman, who had initially built their sound around American soul music before embracing the psychedelic trends of the late 1960s. Their biggest success came with the 1967 hit, Kites. According to Derek Shulman, Reg once stepped in on keyboards when the band's regular player became unavailable. Hoping to impress them, he played 2 songs he had written himself, Skyline Pigeon and Your Song. Today, both are recognized as classics. At the time, however, the Shulman brothers did not believe the songs suited the musical direction they wanted to pursue. As a result, Reg was not invited to join their next project, which eventually became the progressive rock band Gentle Giant. Despite the rejection, the friendship remained intact. Still, the biggest turning point of his life was yet to come. While performing with a group called Bluesology, Reg answered a classified advertisement in the music paper New Musical Express. The audition itself was a disappointment, and he failed to secure the opportunity he had hoped for. But as he prepared to leave, someone handed him an envelope. Inside were lyrics written by another aspiring songwriter who had answered the same advertisement. Reg took the lyrics home, composed music for them, and sent the finished songs back. The writer's name was Bernie Taupin. That simple exchange sparked one of the most successful songwriting partnerships in music history. Taupin's words perfectly complemented Reg's gift for melody. After recording their first song together, Scarecrow, the young musician, could sense that something special was beginning to take shape. But if he was going to make it as a star, he felt he needed a name that sounded larger than life. Reginald Dwight was left behind, and Elton John was born. Success, however, did not arrive overnight. In 1968, Elton and Bernie found work as staff songwriters at DJM Records. Their creative process was astonishingly fast. Bernie could write an entire batch of lyrics in less than an hour, while Elton often composed the accompanying music in roughly 30 minutes. The songs were then passed along to other artists to record. It was steady work and a valuable learning experience, but it was not the future Elton envisioned for himself. He wanted to be the one standing in the spotlight. Eventually, a music publisher encouraged the pair to write more personal, meaningful material and suggested that Elton record the songs himself. Taking that advice, they released Elton's debut album, Empty Sky, in 1969. Interestingly, the partnership that produced so many timeless songs operated in a surprisingly unconventional way. Contrary to popular belief, Elton and Bernie rarely created music side by side. Taupin would write the lyrics alone, hand them over, and Elton would then compose the music separately. Yet somehow, the distance between them only strengthened their creative chemistry. While his professional life was beginning to gain momentum, his personal life was becoming increasingly complicated. Near the end of the 1960s, Elton became engaged to a secretary named Linda Woodrow, who had helped support him financially during his struggling years. From the outside, their relationship appeared stable. Behind closed doors, however, Elton was fighting an intense internal battle. He was struggling with his sexuality, torn between the expectations placed upon him and the truth he was afraid to confront. The pressure became overwhelming. In one deeply troubling moment, Linda found him with his head inside a gas oven, an act that reflected the emotional turmoil consuming him. It was a desperate cry for help from someone who felt trapped by his circumstances. Thankfully, that moment did not define the rest of his story. Elton eventually confided in his close friend and fellow musician, Long John Baldry. Baldry offered straightforward advice that would prove life-changing: end the engagement and focus on being true to himself. Elton took those words to heart. Years later, he would immortalize that pivotal moment in the song, "Someone Saved My Life Tonight," a tribute to the friend who helped steer him away from a path of despair. For Elton, it marked the beginning of a new chapter. For Linda Woodrow, however, the decision brought heartbreak. As Elton John's wedding to Linda Woodrow drew closer, doubts that had been lingering beneath the surface became impossible to ignore. The closer the ceremony got, the more trapped he felt. Eventually, he turned to the advice of his friend Long John Baldry, who had urged him to be honest with himself and focus on his future. Just 2 weeks before the wedding, Elton made the difficult decision to call off the engagement. It was a painful conversation, made even more emotional by the fact that he had been drinking heavily when he broke the news. The relationship came to an end, leaving both of them heartbroken, but it also marked a turning point in Elton's life. With his personal life in turmoil, he buried himself in music. The gamble paid off. Just a year later, he released his second album, Elton John. Bernie Taupin once again provided the lyrics, but this time 2 other key figures helped elevate the project to another level. Producer Gus Dudgeon and arranger Paul Buckmaster brought a richness and sophistication to the music that helped shape Elton's signature sound. At the heart of the album was a song that would change everything: Your Song. The heartfelt ballad became a major hit, climbing into the UK top 10 and introducing Elton John to a much wider audience. Suddenly, he was no longer just a promising young songwriter. He was becoming a star. At the same time, audiences in America were beginning to discover him. The timing could not have been better when he made his U.S. concert debut at Los Angeles' famous Troubadour nightclub. The performance was electric, critics loved it, audiences were captivated, and overnight, Elton became one of the most talked about new artists in music. But while his professional life was taking off, something equally significant was happening behind the scenes. During his time in California, Elton began a relationship with John Reid, a Tamla Motown executive. For Elton, it was a deeply important chapter in his personal life. Reid was not only his romantic partner, but would soon become his manager as well. Together, they formed a powerful partnership that would help guide Elton through the most successful years of his career. And success arrived fast. Hit after hit followed. Songs such as Tiny Dancer, Rocket Man, and Honky Cat showcased his remarkable ability to blend unforgettable melodies with deeply personal storytelling. Yet even among all those achievements, 1972 proved to be a particularly important year. During a performance at the Royal Variety Show, Elton spotted someone in the audience who seemed to be attracting almost as much attention as the performers on stage. Instead of being annoyed, he was intrigued. The energetic dancer was Larry Smith. The two soon connected, and Elton hired Smith for his next American tour. Smith brought bold new ideas, from extravagant costumes to elaborate stage productions. Elton embraced every one of them. The result was a dramatic transformation. No longer just a talented musician sitting behind a piano, he became a larger-than-life performer whose flamboyant outfits and theatrical shows became as memorable as the music itself. Fans could not get enough. In 1973, Elton released Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player, producing major hits such as Daniel and Crocodile Rock. But even that success was overshadowed later that same year when he released Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. The ambitious double album became a landmark achievement. Packed with classic songs and praised by critics, it cemented Elton's reputation as one of the defining artists of his generation. He was no longer simply a successful musician. He was now a global superstar. Around this period, Elton also developed a close friendship with John Lennon. The two shared a playful bet over Lennon's single, Whatever Gets You Through the Night. Elton was convinced the song would reach #1 on the charts, while Lennon was far less certain. Elton promised that if he was right, Lennon would have to join him on stage. When the song reached the top spot, Lennon honored the agreement. At Madison Square Garden, he surprised thousands of fans by appearing alongside Elton during the concert. The audience erupted as the two legends performed together. What nobody realized at the time was that it would become Lennon's final live concert appearance. Elton's influence continued to grow. In 1974, he launched the Rocket Record Company, signing artists such as Neil Sedaka and Kiki Dee. Curiously, despite owning the label, Elton continued releasing his own music through MCA Records. The reason was simple. MCA had invested heavily in him. His contract was reportedly worth millions, making him one of the most valuable artists in the industry. The company was so determined to protect its investment that it reportedly took out a life insurance policy on him worth $25 million. The expectations were enormous, yet Elton delivered. Bear with me for just a moment. This is genuinely worth 20 seconds of your time. Quick question. Can you still remember every word to a song from 1975, but you forgot what you had for breakfast this morning? Scientists found the exact reason for that pattern in 2013. It has nothing to do with aging. It's a specific system inside your brain, and researchers have found exactly how to restore it. Go to brainresearchreport.com, or if it's easier, it's linked in the description below. It's genuinely one of those things you'll wish you'd known sooner. Now, back to the video. Between 1972 and 1975, he dominated popular music in a way few artists ever have. 7 albums reached the top of the charts, multiple singles became #1 hits, and his influence seemed to be everywhere. He was living the dream that countless musicians chased, but behind the sold-out arenas and platinum records, the pressure was steadily building. The truth was that the flamboyant performer millions saw on stage was very different from the man behind the curtain. Elton was naturally shy and introverted. Maintaining that larger-than-life public persona night after night became exhausting. To cope, he increasingly turned to alcohol and drugs. As the years passed, the situation worsened. One story became particularly famous. During a period of heavy drug use, Elton reportedly called his management team from a London hotel to complain about the weather. Convinced that something should be done about the strong winds outside, he demanded that they fix the problem. The incident was humorous on the surface, but it reflected a much deeper issue. Eventually, Elton realized he needed a break. In 1977, he stunned fans by announcing his retirement from performing. Around the same time, he also ended his long-running songwriting partnership with Bernie Taupin. Seeking a fresh start, he began working with lyricist Gary Osborne and released A Single Man. The album received a mixed reception. While it found some success in Britain, it failed to produce a major hit in the United States. Critics were divided, and many began to wonder whether separating from Taupin had been a mistake. Unfortunately, even greater challenges lay ahead. Back in 1976, Elton had publicly identified as bisexual, a move that attracted significant attention. Then, in 1983, he met German sound engineer Renate Blauel. The two developed a close friendship, and she eventually joined him on an Australian tour. What happened next surprised almost everyone. While sharing a meal together, Elton suddenly proposed marriage. Renate accepted, and just 3 days later, they were husband and wife. From the outside, it looked like a fairy tale wedding. In reality, the cracks appeared almost immediately. According to later reports, Elton began expressing doubts just days into their honeymoon. The relationship quickly became strained, and the emotional toll on both of them was severe. Although the marriage lasted 4 years before ending in divorce, Elton would later speak of Renate with great respect, describing her as one of the finest people he had ever known. Once again, he found himself alone, and just as his personal life was unraveling, an even greater challenge was approaching, one that threatened not only his career, but his future itself. Elton's silent battle begins. In 1987, Elton John found himself facing one of the most frightening moments of his career. Doctors discovered nodules on his vocal cords, a condition that threatened the very thing that had made him famous, his voice. The situation became serious enough that he had to undergo surgery while touring in Australia. Looking back years later, Elton would point to his heavy marijuana use as one of the factors that may have contributed to the problem. For a man whose life revolved around performing, the possibility of never singing again was a terrifying reality. Yet even as he confronted his own health crisis, an even more heartbreaking battle was unfolding in the life of one of his closest friends. Among Elton's dearest companions was Queen frontman Freddie Mercury. Their friendship went far beyond the public image of two music legends. They trusted each other deeply, and that trust became especially important when Freddie was diagnosed with HIV. Elton was among the first people to learn about the illness, years before Freddie publicly revealed it to the world. Watching his friend face such a devastating diagnosis left a profound impact on him. What struck Elton most was not Freddie's fear, but his courage. One of his favorite memories took place immediately after Queen's unforgettable performance at Live Aid in 1985. Like everyone else in attendance, Elton was amazed by what he had just witnessed. Freddie knew exactly how powerful the performance had been as well. Their conversation afterward quickly turned into playful banter, with Freddie confidently celebrating the band's triumph before jokingly poking fun at Elton's stage outfit. It was classic Freddie, sharp, witty, and impossible to resist. That sense of humor never disappeared, even as his health deteriorated. In the final stages of his illness, Freddie was largely confined to bed. His eyesight was failing, and his body had become increasingly weak. Yet somehow, his wit remained untouched. Even while battling a disease that was slowly taking his life, he still found ways to make his friends laugh. For Elton, those moments became powerful reminders of the strength Freddie carried until the very end. Their friendship had always been filled with laughter, outrageous adventures, and mutual respect. They spent years celebrating together, pushing each other to extremes, and sharing experiences that few people could truly understand. But perhaps the most touching moment came after Freddie's death. On Christmas Day in 1991, Elton received a package from his late friend. Inside was a painting created by one of Elton's favorite artists, accompanied by a handwritten note, signed with the affectionate nicknames the two friends had given each other years earlier through their drag queen alter egos. The gift had been arranged while Freddie was already gravely ill. The gesture left Elton overwhelmed with emotion. Here was a man in the final days of his life, enduring unimaginable physical suffering, yet still taking the time to find the perfect Christmas present for a friend. Elton later admitted that opening the gift reduced him to tears. At the time, the public knew very little about Freddie's condition. In fact, most fans did not learn about his diagnosis until the day before he died. His death deeply affected Elton and strengthened his determination to help those impacted by the AIDS crisis. Rather than simply mourn, he decided to act. In 1992, he began donating proceeds from his music to AIDS-related charities and soon established the Elton John AIDS Foundation. What started as a personal mission grew into one of the largest and most influential AIDS organizations in the world. For Elton, it was a way of honoring friends like Freddie while helping countless others facing the same struggle. Not everyone appreciated Elton's willingness to speak his mind, however. Around this period, he became concerned about fellow musician George Michael. After the pair recorded a successful duet of Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, Elton privately offered advice regarding George's substance use. George did not respond well to the criticism, and tensions between the two briefly spilled into public view. It was a reminder that even good intentions could sometimes create friction. Then, just a few years later, tragedy struck on a global scale. On August 31, 1997, the world woke to shocking news. Princess Diana had died in a car crash in Paris at just 36 years old. She had been traveling with Dodi Al-Fayed when their vehicle crashed inside a tunnel while being pursued by photographers. Diana, Al-Fayed, and the driver were all killed. Only the bodyguard survived. The loss sent shockwaves across the world. Millions mourned the woman who had become known as the People's Princess. Crowds gathered throughout Britain, covering streets with flowers and messages of grief. Her funeral quickly became one of the most watched events in modern history, drawing an estimated audience of billions worldwide. Among those mourning was Elton John. His friendship with Diana stretched back to 1981, when they first met at Prince Andrew's 21st birthday celebration. The two quickly connected and remained friends for years. Elton admired her compassion, particularly her willingness to support AIDS awareness at a time when many public figures avoided the issue altogether. Like many friendships, theirs experienced difficult moments. A disagreement over a charity project caused a temporary rift between them. Fortunately, they reconciled shortly before Diana's death when both attended the funeral of their mutual friend, fashion designer Gianni Versace. Neither could have known it would be one of their final meetings. As preparations for Diana's funeral began, Elton felt compelled to honor her memory. He turned to Candle in the Wind, the song he and Bernie Taupin had originally written about Marilyn Monroe decades earlier. Taupin revised the lyrics to reflect Diana's life and legacy, transforming the song into a moving tribute. Not everyone was convinced it belonged in the ceremony. Some members of the royal establishment reportedly worried that the performance would be overly emotional, but supporters argued that the song perfectly captured the feelings of millions of grieving people around the world. Ultimately, Elton was allowed to perform. Standing before a global audience inside Westminster Abbey, he delivered a deeply emotional rendition of the song. The performance instantly became one of the most memorable moments in modern music history and remains closely associated with Diana's legacy to this day. Even as Elton continued building unforgettable moments, his fiery personality occasionally created headlines of its own. During a visit to Taipei for a concert, he became frustrated after being overwhelmed by reporters and photographers at the airport. The situation escalated into a public outburst that quickly attracted media attention. Realizing he had gone too far, Elton later apologized to fans during his concert. Fortunately, while moments like that occasionally made headlines, his personal life was beginning to move in a far more positive direction. Building a life against odds. In 1993, Elton John met advertising executive David Furnish, and the connection was almost immediate. What started as a simple introduction quickly turned into something deeper, an unexpected relationship that would go on to become one of the most important and defining parts of Elton John's life. More than a decade later, in 2005, Elton decided it was time to take the next step. Surrounded by family and close friends, he proposed to David in a deeply personal and emotional moment. There was just one problem. At the time, same-sex marriage was not yet legal in the United Kingdom. Instead, the couple entered into a civil partnership, holding their ceremony at Windsor Guildhall, a historic venue later made even more famous when King Charles III and Queen Camilla married there. With their partnership official, Elton and David began focusing on another dream: building a family. Their first son arrived in 2010, followed by a second son in 2013. Both children were born through surrogacy, and the identity of the surrogate has remained private. Parenthood transformed Elton in ways few could have predicted. The flamboyant superstar, known for filling arenas around the world, embraced family life wholeheartedly, and those closest to him often spoke about how naturally he settled into the role of father. Then, when same-sex marriage was finally legalized in Britain, Elton and David decided to make their union official. In 2014, they married, with their two sons playing special roles in the ceremony. What had begun as a chance encounter more than 2 decades earlier had become a lasting family story. Fatherhood suited Elton remarkably well. In fact, his reputation as a devoted parent led many friends to trust him with an equally important role. Over the years, Elton became godfather to numerous children, including some from very famous families. Among his godchildren are Sean Lennon, the son of John Lennon, Brooklyn and Romeo Beckham, and Damian Hurley. The connections worked both ways as well. One of Elton's own sons has pop superstar Lady Gaga as a godmother. His generosity extended beyond family and close friends. In 2006, the band Scissor Sisters released the hit song I Don't Feel Like Dancin'. Many listeners noticed echoes of Elton's classic style throughout the track, and there was a good reason for that. Elton helped write the music and personally played piano on the recording, lending his unmistakable touch to one of the group's biggest hits. Yet, despite the happy family life and continued musical success, controversy occasionally found its way into the headlines. In 2002, Elton hired Los Angeles police officer Jeffrey Wenninger as part of his security team. After working for him for more than a decade, Wenninger filed a lawsuit alleging inappropriate behavior. Elton strongly denied the accusations, and the case was eventually dropped. While the allegations generated attention, they ultimately did little to damage his popularity. By then, Elton had become more than a musician. He was a national institution. That status became clear in 2017 when a major public poll asked Britons to choose their favorite Elton John song. The winner was hardly surprising. Your Song, the timeless ballad that had launched him into stardom nearly 5 decades earlier, claimed the top spot. The result was especially remarkable considering Elton had composed the music in roughly 15 minutes. Songwriting may have come naturally to him, but technology was another story entirely. Despite living in an age dominated by smartphones and social media, Elton developed a reputation for being surprisingly uncomfortable with modern gadgets. For years, he openly admitted that technology simply was not his strong suit. The one device he truly embraced was an iPad, largely because it allowed him to stay connected with his children while traveling. Family, however, remained one of the most complicated parts of his life. Although Elton devoted himself to being a loving father, his relationships with his own parents were often strained. His father never attended one of his live performances, despite witnessing his son's rise to international superstardom. His relationship with his mother, Sheila Dwight, proved even more turbulent. The tension between them grew particularly severe later in life, with much of the conflict reportedly centered around David Furnish. Over time, the disagreement escalated into a lengthy estrangement. For years, mother and son barely spoke. The situation became so bitter that when Sheila celebrated her 90th birthday, Elton was not present. Instead, she reportedly hired an Elton John impersonator to attend the party in his place. The distance between them lasted nearly 8 years. Eventually, however, they reconciled. The reunion brought hope that their relationship could finally heal after years of pain and misunderstanding. Sadly, time was not on their side. Just 1 year later, Sheila passed away, leaving Elton devastated. Even then, there was one final surprise. Before her death, Sheila reportedly changed her will, leaving the majority of her estate not to Elton, but to his longtime personal assistant, Bob Halley. The decision stunned many observers and highlighted just how complicated the relationship between mother and son had remained until the very end. Despite their difficulties, Elton had supported his mother financially for years. At various points, he provided her with work and opportunities to help maintain her lifestyle. Yet old wounds and personal disagreements continued to create tension between them. And just when it seemed the family drama had finally settled, another controversy emerged. Rumors began circulating that David Furnish had been involved in an extramarital affair. Determined to protect their privacy, Elton and David fought aggressively through the British legal system to prevent the media from publishing certain details. The legal action succeeded in restricting coverage within England, though reports continued to spread internationally. Fortunately for Elton, another story soon dominated the headlines. In 2024, he achieved one of the rarest accomplishments in entertainment history. By that point, Elton had already collected an extraordinary list of awards, including Grammys, Academy Awards, and a Tony Award. But one prize had remained elusive: an Emmy. That changed when he won for Elton John, Farewell from Dodger Stadium. With that victory, Elton officially joined the exclusive group of performers who have achieved EGOT status, earning an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony during their careers. It was yet another milestone in a life already filled with remarkable achievements. Looking at his career from the outside, it can be easy to focus solely on the success, the wealth, and the accolades. But the reality has always been far more complicated. Behind the sold-out concerts and global fame was a man who spent years battling serious personal challenges. Alongside living with epilepsy, Elton struggled with addiction to drugs and alcohol. He also openly discussed his battle with bulimia, a condition that affected him during some of the most successful years of his career. The road to recovery was long and often difficult, requiring enormous determination and self-reflection. But it was a battle he ultimately won. In 2019, Elton proudly celebrated a major milestone: 29 years of sobriety. Elton John breaks down after Jamie Foxx roasts him on live TV. The year was 2002, and the 8th annual BET Walk of Fame was celebrating one of the most influential musicians of all time, Stevie Wonder. It was a night built around honoring a living legend. Hosted by Jamie Foxx, the event brought together an impressive lineup of performers, all eager to pay tribute to the man whose music had shaped generations. Throughout the evening, artists such as Brian McKnight, K-Psy and JoJo, and Mariah Carey took the stage, each delivering their own interpretations of Stevie Wonder classics. As one memorable performance followed another, the atmosphere inside the venue grew more emotional. Everyone understood they were witnessing a celebration of an artist whose impact on music was almost impossible to measure. Then came Elton John's turn. Instead of performing one of Stevie's well-known hits, Elton chose a different path. He sat down at the piano and offered something far more personal, an original song written specifically for Stevie Wonder. As the room quieted, the mood shifted. The spotlight settled on Elton as he began playing a series of gentle yet powerful piano chords. His voice carried the melody with warmth and sincerity, every lyric serving as a tribute to Stevie's talent, influence, and enduring legacy. It wasn't simply a performance. It felt like one legendary musician speaking directly to another. As the song unfolded, Elton poured himself into every note. The performance gradually built in intensity, moving from quiet admiration to something far more powerful. His connection to the music was obvious. With each verse, he seemed determined to express just how much respect he had for the man being honored. By the final moments, the emotion in the room was undeniable. Elton leaned into the piano one last time, bringing the song to a heartfelt conclusion. Then, before leaving the stage, he delivered a warm spoken dedication to Stevie. It was simple, genuine, and full of affection, the kind of tribute that could only come from someone who truly admired the person standing at the center of the celebration. For a few seconds after the performance ended, the final piano notes hung in the air. Then the audience erupted. Applause thundered throughout the venue as guests rose to their feet. The room was filled with appreciation, not only for Stevie Wonder, but also for the sincerity Elton had brought to the tribute. It was one of those rare moments when two musical giants shared a stage, connected by nothing more than mutual respect. Everything had unfolded perfectly, and then Jamie Foxx took over. As the applause continued, the cameras cut back to the host. Rather than extending the emotional moment, Foxx immediately steered the room in a completely different direction. Drawing on his trademark comedic instincts, he launched into an exaggerated impression of Elton's performance. He playfully mimicked Elton's British accent, his passionate delivery, and the way he had repeatedly emphasized Stevie's name throughout the tribute. The shift was instant. Only seconds earlier, the audience had been soaking in a heartfelt musical moment. Now they were doubled over with laughter. Foxx continued escalating the bit, dramatically reenacting Elton's enthusiasm while inventing increasingly ridiculous variations of Stevie's name. Each new joke pushed the impression further, and the crowd responded with louder laughter every time.